Work sucks. Am I right, Jay?
Yeah, Kay, it does. But luckily, the F My Work Life podcast is here to help you through.
In this comedy podcast, we share memorable workplace stories through guests and listener submissions in the hopes of brightening your day, or at least leave you thinking, maybe you don't have it so bad after all.
Listen to F My Work Life on your favorite podcast platform and follow us on all the socials at FMWL Pod.
Episode 101 of Seddy Bimco, Part 2, The Revenge. I'm just going to say that from now on. I'm not going to do the whole Part 2. I mean, Season 2.
No, it's Season 3.
All right.
How dare you? We have a whole new theme. And this theme is we celebrate America's regional filmmakers.
We do.
And this is the first one, right, Tim? We've gone out of order, I know. So today I picked it, and let me apologize to people who live in Alabama, Alaska, and other states that come before Arkansas. I was trying to go beginning of the alphabet. Forgot about y'all. So we're starting with Arkansas's own The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
From 1976.
The late, great Charles B. Pierce. The B stands for Boggy Creek. Right. The man who gave us practically the entire structure of Season 2 of Seddy Bimco, which, as you all know, is America's foremost revenge-themed podcast. Now, revenge regionally themed podcast.
Big opening. Yep. Big opening.
Big opening. Big opening. Big season. We're getting where? Where are we getting? What? Oh.
Well, first, before.
Still age-old questions? Even though it's a new season, we're still doing age-old questions? Yes, I say we don't do age-old questions.
You know the three men in a tub, right? Rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub.
Yes.
Who do you think they could be? The butcher, baker, the candlestick maker, all of them out to sea in a little tub. So did the age-old question, did the butcher or the baker ever get revenge on the candlestick maker for making chum-scented candles to float around at sea with?
It's Seddy Bimco Part 2, The Revenge. The show where we create revenge sequels that nobody wanted.
It's Seddy Bimco Part 2, The Revenge.
No.
Episode 101.
Season 3.
Moving forward. And every week, George, when we watch a movie, we ask a wildcard question.
We're still doing this, too.
I told you that.
I was not consulted enough. I want to change these things. No. We're doing the age-old questions. We're doing fucking, you're reaching into a bucket and pulling out slips of paper again. All right, what is it this time, Tim?
We did talk about, I said, they're going to be all international questions since we're celebrating America.
Folks, he actually did say this. Yes.
So after we watch this
coming
movie,
in hot. Yeah.
We're going to ask who from this movie would be most likely to die eating blowfish in Japan.
Ooh, it's racist.
No, some people eat blowfish.
Yep.
Knowing that they could get a piece of poison. That's not racist.
It's racist.
But that's a common thing in Japan. You know that.
It's not common. It's uncommon. That's why we have such dread for it. What is it, tagu? What's it called? Let's just say.
Speaking of racist. Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Ooh.
I warm up
coming in hot.
Listening to old videos on YouTube, and I watched Do You Want to Hurt Me by Culture Club. Do you really want to hurt me? Yes. This video starts with her in court in England. And chorus in the chairs. A bunch of people in blackface. You go check it out.
No.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. Listeners of previous seasons of Seddy Bimco know that
she's canceled.
Tim Hamilton came in with some hot takes on Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper. So early 80s pop icons, we're really sticking it to you. Really pulling references to videos that are 40 years old, let's say.
Yes.
I think Boy George wishes they were canceled.
That would only come up if Boy George runs for office. Then they'll be showing that video.
I am curious to see this, but maybe after
you can look it up.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about a synopsis for this movie since you picked it? Or do you have anything to say before we talk about the movie? We just I
have a lot actually to say about this. So in case we haven't said anywhere else, and I don't think we have, what Tim and I are going to be doing for the next 50 or so episodes, because there's 50 nifty United States, we're going to be choosing each week. And, there'll be fill-ins. There's probably be some Kevin Cablastos, some other people's hanging around. Who knows? But each week we're going to be choosing a state. and we're going to choose one of those regional filmmakers. You know, I guess with California, we could probably do a big Hollywood film, but you know, all these states, there's always some guy who just had a dream of making movies, and that person does make movies, and sometimes those movies are great, like Boggy Creek, or dare I say Mardi Gras Massacre, and sometimes they're less so. But this been such a fertile ground for us. We're going to celebrate all these different states. So Tim and I actually did talk a little bit. This one is based on the true story of the Phantom Killer, who was responsible for 5 deaths and a string of attacks in Texarkana in 1946. True story.
I would like to say,
yep.
If you read anything about this, the movie bears little resemblance to the true facts. So,
it bears more resemblance than you'd think. Actually,
I want to be okay weird. Laughing about the movie, not this killing that took place in 1946.
Well, this is actually a pretty good segue point because there was some controversy about this movie when it was released. So Charles B. Pierce, who we've previously watched both his Boggy Creek and Boggy Creek 2, The Legend Continues, and then his he didn't have anything to do with it, but Return to Boggy Creek, which was like the original sequel. Anyway, great Bigfoot movies. We have a lot of fun. There's 2 of my favorite episodes. This is another movie he did. This was actually, I think, his follow-up to Boggy Creek.
Yeah.
Fairly successful film.
Was it?
It was made on a budget of like $300,000 and grossed either $5 or $6 million, which this would have been a good chance for a George Currency Kerner, but I did not do the math. Let's assume that is $700 billion today.
And he did spend money getting classic cars.
Yeah. This is a period piece.
Yeah.
Which I kind of forgot as a period piece after like the first 10 minutes, but that is a good point. There were cars.
But George, before we talk about the movie, what I did want to say is, did you have any facts about Arkansas, or am I jumping ahead?
I think you jumped. Well, I wanted to say that the first thing I was trying to get to is you and I were discussing, is this even an Arkansas film?
Oh,
Texarkana, much like Kansas City, is a city that famously straddles 2 states, Arkansas and Texas. And both kind of lay claim to both this real incidents. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I went to encyclopediaofarkansas.net, which confirms that this film was principally filmed in Arkansas. Okay. There was a little bit in Texas. There was actually a scene filmed in Shreveport, Louisiana, and there was like one other place. So this is a proper Arkansas film. Okay. Other interesting stuff. It's kind of a proto-slasher. This is like 2 years before Halloween, 4 years before Nightmare on Elm Street. Incredibly, given the way the character of the Phantom Killer looks in this, it's 5 years before Friday the 13th Part 2, which is the one where Jason has a sack on his head. This guy has a sack on his head. It's like they definitely saw this movie.
Or they saw that famous painting.
Well, the painting, did you catch who drew that?
The famous painting of the 2
there's a famous painting, which is...
faces?
Oh, no, I was talking about the painting for this. The poster for this is a well-known poster of a man wearing a sack on his head, staring over his shoulder. It's painted by Ralph McQuarrie, who did a lot of the early design work for Star Wars. Before Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is like on him on the way up. Also,
Rene Magritte. That's what I'm trying to say. Magritte.
Oh.
He did a famous painting of 2 people with sheets on their heads kissing. So...
fancy art talk on your episode of Seddy Bimco.
Fancy art talk. Well, I got to get these Arkansas facts in. It's a landlocked state, George.
Oh, so you're doing Arkansas talk. I was trying to do movie. Are we going to battle over this?
Yes.
I wanted to. No, I'm talking about the poster. I have a fact tied to the poster and the controversies of this movie. The poster originally read, in 1946, this man killed 5 people. Today, he still lurks the streets of Texarkana, Arkansas. Another blow for us saying this is an Arkansas film. Yes. But he was sued by members of the government of Arkansas to remove that part.
I read that.
Yeah. And then he was he was also sued by the family member of, they changed the names. The opening line of this says, this is based on a true story. The names were changed. One of the characters who had a little bit more than just her name changed, the surviving brother, spoilers, she died. The surviving brother tried to sue him, and the case was viewed as, it was thrown out of court basically because they did change the name and they changed some details. So, yep,
and now that's my real time. Stuff. I read they show it all the time, like on the Friday Film Festival.
Oh, so apparently since 2003, a free screening is held every single October of this movie at a place called Spring Lake Park in Texas, which, Texarkana, but still. That's all my Arkansas facts. What do you got, Tim? I'm sure yours are more silly.
No, I just want to talk about how it's landlocked.
Yep.
Borders Missouri to the north, Tennessee and Mississippi to the east, and Louisiana to the south. There's my facts.
Is it landlocked when it's all marsh? Does that count?
It's landlocked. It says.
Okay.
It's the 28th largest by area, largest state.
It's less than half the way. Try harder, Arkansas. What else? Home of Bill Clinton.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
I have a question for you. Why is it pronounced Arkansas, but you take the AR for the beginning and it's just pronounced Kansas? What's going on, people?
Yeah, it drives me nuts. That's one of those things that drove me insane as a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Know who else I heard that drove crazy? Great satirist and writer Mark Twain.
Oh, yes. He's not here today.
What would he... Oh, he's not? Oh, shit. No. I was trying to open the door. Even though he has been banned multiple times, because, frankly, listeners, I suspect that the Mark Twain who repeatedly shows up is nothing but a sham, but we still keep calling him back. It's like, wait, if we say his name 3 times, will he appear like Beetlejuice?
No, he doesn't get along with the band that is here this week.
Oh, wow. Wait, what's the band? Is it the Pete Best and the Best Pete's?
No, I have no idea. Peanut Butter and Jesus Jam Band.
Oh, man.
They'll
Okay.
be performing later. End of the episode. Stick around,
I'm actually stopping to look up if this is... This has been a new thing that Tim's been bringing up, and I don't
be
get
looking
it.
things up.
I'm looking it up.
So Charles B. Pierce, he also is in this movie.
Yep.
Playing an attempt at comic relief.
Yeah, odd. We'll get to it in the story. It's bewildering, given the tone of this film, for this character to exist.
Well, let me just say, I thought this film was super boring. It gave me lots to think about, but super boring.
How am I going to put this? I could see how this movie was an important forebear for slashers. I feel like it's got like some real movie vibes, which I think as we get into our tour of regionalisms, we're going to see a lot of movies that don't feel like real movies. This is a real movie. Charles B. Pierce is actually a pretty good filmmaker.
People are coming.
He worked with Lee Majors.
Yeah. I mean, the movie looks nice.
Yeah, and it's like it's got
well shot.
Yeah, it's well shot. It's got good sound. Mm-hmm. These are all things that a lot of our movies won't have. He has some name actors in it. Yeah, it's just
boys are getting home from World War II. It's got history.
Yep.
Because he slips in his politics.
Segue.
He's like, I don't know if people still have doubts about Truman, so he obviously doesn't like President Truman. He's a Republican.
You're right. That is a scene. So the movie does open up with like kind of a weird history lesson, and there is which I think also exists in Boggy Creek, and I think to a certain degree even in Boggy Creek too, there is a narrator. Yep. And this guy he tells us, is it all the same guy?
That's Boggy Creek, the first one.
That's fucking weird. That guy must have dirt on Charles B. Pierce. So he gives a little history about post-war Texarkana, the boys returning home from the war and all that stuff. And
they got all that gold that they pulled out of Japanese teeth. It's true. This is history.
They talk about that. That's the first 15 minutes of the movie. It's just about dentistry.
World War II had ended only 8 months earlier, and the town of Texarkana, population 40,000, which straddles the Texas-Arkansas border, was re-gearing for peace after 4 years.
And it's scored the entire time by the Peanut Butter and Jesus Jam Band, right?
It is. No. They weren't around.
I don't even know what that joke is. I might be something horrible here.
This was the end of when trolley cars were being phased out.
Yep. So
because he talks about Miss Kathy Bakerwood, she got run over by a trolley, and oddly enough,
her legs cut off. Yeah.
Her leg won the annual lottery for a free trip to Aruba, so her leg went to Aruba, drank a lot. And,
How did her leg drink?
Came back, just soaked up the alcohol.
That's weird. So it became bloated with alcohol. Was it just actually in alcohol to preserve the severed leg, or did?
Yes, that's what happened. That's how it survived.
Okay,
got a little burnt because it didn't have hands to put suntan lotion on itself.
And nobody wanted to do it because it was gross and
Nobody
bloated.
wanted to do it.
They're like, I'm not touching that gross bloated alcoholic leg. Wow, I'm glad that we've really what
they
happened?
canceled that lottery after that.
As well they should. And that's what Shirley Hughes, the lottery, is about, right? A lot of people, everyone's assigned that. Nobody reads it. This is what it's actually about, turns out.
Not Shirley Hughes.
No?
Her name is Shirley. I forget. It's not Hughes. No, you do that. That happens with my wife. She'll say, "What's that? What's George's last name? Peters?" I'm like, "Oh,
Shirley Jackson."
I can't remember now. Is it O'Connelly?
Okay. O'Connelly. Shirley Jackson. Put that in.
Yes. Shirley Jackson.
All right. So after we get this little bit of history.
You want me to put that in so you don't sound really stupid, George? Shirley Jackson.
No, I sound stupid. Shirley Jackson. I looked it up because I can use Google. All right. Now that we've talked like 20 minutes about God knows what, about legs.
15 minutes.
The narrator says.
there's more legs coming. But yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, boy. Can't wait.
This first scene, but we'll get to it.
Oh, you're right. Because the narrator tells us it's Sunday, March 3rd, 1946. We see a couple pull up to, like, I guess, a makeout spot in a car. Mm-hmm. And then, Tim, what do we see approaching that car?
Well, wait. That's not what got my attention. He lays in her lap. What?
I don't know what was happening there. Can you describe this? I literally watched this part twice because I'm like, I don't actually get what's going on here.
She's like, Sammy. He goes, Shh, oh, I want to. I think he liked kissing ladies' knees. If he didn't get killed in the scene, he would have become the knee-kissing bandit. Okay. I think that's what was going on.
So I just want to describe this for people who haven't seen it, where they pull to a stop at a makeout spot. The guy looks like I wrote down, he looks like a zombie. He looks not well. He's got dark circles under his eyes. He's like 40. The lady's sitting there next to him in the passenger seat. And she seems kind of like slightly annoyed. And then, he stops and he dips his head. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are we going to have like oral sex or something here?
Yeah.
But we see him just kind of laying his head on her lap.
Right. I don't know.
And
it's the 40s.
She hears feet, or it is approaching the car. Mm-hmm. And she's like, do you hear that? To the guy. And the guy's like, Linda May, please concentrate on what's going on.
I know.
I'm like, what is going on?
What is going on?
You're not doing anything because you're talking. And we see she's not getting anything from this. Like, what? It's weird.
He's a knee kisser.
But
he's the kissing knee bandit. He was the kissing knee bandit.
He's more like, but the problem is, Tim, he's not even facing the right way. He's got his head, like, his lips are still like a good 4 inches away from the knee.
I know.
Is he working his way there? It's just, and what is she supposed to be doing?
I don't know.
This was genuinely confusing, folks.
It was. The narrator needed
my
to step
notes
in.
Right. What is going on? And then suddenly the hood of the car flies up. And as Tim mentioned up front, like, these are classic cars. He did a good job of finding old cars.
Yeah.
And they all start screaming. And then we see what I guess is going to be named the Phantom Killer. He's a man wearing like a potato sack on his head. He's got two like kind of jagged holes cut where you can see his blue eyes. And he holds up some wires. He's ripped out the ignition wires of this car.
Carburetor, George.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Cars.
The carburetor?
Yeah. Carburetor.
Because cars are run by carburetors.
Mm-hmm.
What other words have car in them that we can say there?
Carmen.
The car is rendered cartatonic. Yeah,
Carmen
they're listening to
Cavallero's Dancing in the Dark was the top song in 1946, George. Whoa, what a coincidence.
That is weird. What else?
That's true.
That's true. What else?
That's it.
Is he part of a caravan?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
And they had just come back from eating ice cream at Carvel.
Carvel, probably.
Yep. What else?
John Lennon's parents are walking down Carvel Lane. They're thinking about having a child. Possibly.
I have to tell you, that's bad that they're thinking about having a child, because in 1946, John Lennon's already 6 years old.
Oh, you do not know your Beatles ages that well.
It's actually very easy because he died at 40 and he was killed in 1980. That one you could do real easy.
They're thinking of having another child.
No, they split up before he was born.
Okay.
Tim. All right.
A Wonderful Life came out this year too. The year this takes place.
So you're going to do a Mr. Gower impersonation?
No, I'm just telling you some facts. Okay. These are facts.
Okay.
1946.
All right. So the
doctor says the victims were bitten and chewed. We
didn't even get up to the victim. We started talking about John Lennon. He pulls out the carburetor, I guess. Yeah. Yes. Then he pulls the guy out the window and beats him with like a pipe. He smashes the window with a pipe, beats the guy that he pulls out. The girl, she
breaks through her window too, but I forget what happens there.
Yeah, I forgot because there's a lot of this killer ends up attacking cars. I think he pulls her out too, and I thought she gets killed. But then this was a nighttime scene. Then the movie cuts to daytime, and she's laying at the side of the road. I'm like, fuck, she's dead. But somebody pulls over, and she's just been fucked up. Yeah. It turns out both these people survived. They just got fucked up.
Yep.
Guy beat him with stuff. And yes, as Tim mentioned, there's a scene where we meet the police who I guess are like the heroes of this. And the doctor's describing like she was bitten. I mean, like really chewed up all over her back and butt.
Yeah, she said Doc says the victim was bitten and chewed, just like a hamburger.
Yep.
French fries.
Oh, I wrote it down. Her back, stomach, and breasts were bitten.
And the police captain's like, we got nothing, no clues, no pattern.
Yeah, it's one killing. These cops immediately are broadly telegraphing they're not going to catch this killer. They're like, I don't see how we're ever going to find this person. This is a good time to mention in Charles B. Pierce fashion, we run the gamut from like actual name brand actors to talented local actors to just guys he found at the gas station.
Right.
And it really is like you could tell like some of these are just like randos and like apparently the reviews I read of this thing, the stuff like, he just would cast like random people in the area sometimes.
Cool. Well, while the police are talking, we're introduced to Mr. Charles B. Pierce.
Yes. Playing
like a new police officer deputy. He's playing Don Knotts. He's playing comic relief.
Yeah. His character's name is Sparkplug.
Oh yeah. Sparkplug. I love his name.
Yeah.
He's on the phone yelling at Miss Kiner about her dog. It's very unclear.
Miss Connor, not Miss Kiner.
It's Kiner because I had
what?
I had captions on, and I
they don't allow Irish people in this town, right?
Kiner. That was her name.
Okay.
Yes, Mrs. Connor. This is Sparkplug. What's your problem? Mrs. Connor, you don't have to put up with that crap. Get him on the phone. Is that you, Connor? What the hell's wrong with you, boy? You try that again, and the Supreme Court of the United States ain't going to be able to save your ass.
And I heard them say Kiner because I was like, that's a weird name. Why don't you pick an easier name to say? But it's unclear. He's yelling at a lady's yelling, and he says, put him on the phone. And then he says, if that dog ever does this again, I'm going to shoot him.
Because if he sicks him on me one more time, I'm going to
It's two that he's there. She's Miss Kiner's having a problem with her kid.
That's what I thought,
and
too.
He puts the kid on, yells at it. But then he's going to come over and do something to the kid. He goes, and put that mangy dog away. Because apparently if he goes there, the dog attacks. And his superior is like, Sparkplug, what did I tell you about threatening people on the phone? He's like, not to do it. So please don't let me hear you do this again. And then, of course, the joke is the lady calls back 3 seconds later. And he's like, I'm going to shoot your dog.
Because she was complaining about the dog that time, George. Because I have a list.
Oh, okay. God, I should have known. All right. Listeners, I'm going to walk away and come back. All right. Yeah.
You're my audience. No one else is listening. I see
right.
you opening a book. Do you have a list?
These are my notes. I do have a list later, which I'll be honest, Tim, I may or may not read because I'm not happy with the quality of my list.
Okay. Well, my list is reasons why Mrs. Kiner was complaining about that dog.
Okay.
So number 1, the dog was always stealing Miss Kiner's mother's handkerchiefs. That's the first thing this dog was doing.
Okay.
The second thing this dog was always doing, it was always humping Miss Kiner's mother. And the third worst thing this dog was doing.
I don't like where this is going.
This dog was always digging up Miss Kiner's mother. So there you
go. Okay. I thought that the handkerchiefs were used to clean up the mess after he humped Mrs. Kiner, so I'm somewhat relieved. Though then you brought in necrophilia. No, necrophilia. Wait,
dogs just.
That's
hump.
when you have sex. Yes, necrophilia. But he dug her up, right?
Yeah, but they just hump. I don't know if that's actual sex, George. Let's move on.
Folks, if you have an opinion on whether or not a dog humping a corpse that dug up is actual sex, write to us at Seddy Bimco with an E at the end at gmail.com.
George will send you $3.
No, I won't.
This cop's name is Benson, but they call him Sparkplug. He's Sparkplug.
Oh, his real name is Benson? Okay.
Yeah, I heard it.
As we said, he is he is played by director and producer of this movie, Charles B. Pierce. Fun fact, Tim, maybe you saw this. Sparkplug is what his friends would call him in real life.
Really? I didn't see that.
Charles B. Pierce was called Sparkplug because he was apparently not very tall, but he was a font of energy.
And a bad driver.
We learned that. Bad driver and,
in this movie, but I don't know if in real life. That's his
I wouldn't be surprised. All right, so then...
It's his shtick.
Because it's 21 days. This is important. 21 days pass.
Oh, that's right.
And we are introduced to, I just need to get into this, Howard W. Turner, who is a returning GI from the war. He's 29 years old.
I know what you're going to say.
And the girl that he's been dating for 6 weeks, that's where it was 6 weeks, Emma Lou Cook, who is 17.
Yeah, that's part of what I was going to talk about.
I have some problems with that.
I have some problems with what he said. Are you going to go over that?
Well, I just want to say the person, the guy who tried to sue this, the surviving brother, the character of Emma Lou Cook was based on his sister, who actually, this character, it stated she dropped out of school at 16 to help her family get a job. And now she's dating this 29-year-old man, which that's just gross. But apparently the real person who Emma Lou Cook was based on had graduated school at 16.
Okay.
However, she really was dating a dude for 6 weeks that there was this big age difference.
And when she talks to him, she seems a little annoyed. I didn't write down exactly what she said, but she's like, doesn't she say, I guess those Japanese know how to please their ladies? He's like, oh yeah, they do.
Well, please their men. What? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, they do.
You're bragging about it.
Yeah, she because he had served in the Pacific Theater. Yes. She's like, I'm surprised you would have come back. Those Japanese women must know how to make their men happy. And he's like, yeah, they do. And she's like, well, now I want to go home. I'm like, this is all gross. Why are we seeing any of this? I hate everything that's happening on the screen.
It's been 3 weeks since the last killing. I have that here after we.
Yeah, specifically 21 days.
Yeah. And the cop goes out driving around because they want to make sure the kids aren't making out and getting in trouble.
Getting murdered.
Yeah.
Or actually, no one's been murdered yet until this point.
And I think he's going out to follow these two, right? These two went out to
he's actually he's just doing the rounds of all the makeout spots.
Okay. It's raining.
It is raining.
And he hears gunshots. That's what happens.
He does. Yep. Mm-hmm. And he breathlessly talks on the CB or whatever it would have been back then, the radio.
The radio.
He's like, "Send back up. I hear gunshots in the woods." And then he hears more
gunshots.
And then he runs after him and he comes to a ditch and he finds the dead molester in it.
Yeah.
He looks like
he sees him laying dead.
He looks like he's been his face is just a big bruise. I guess he's been bludgeoned to death.
I guess.
I don't know. And then he goes a little bit further, and this is pretty upsetting and kind of shocking given some of the tune stuff. He finds then the young girl, the child, lashed to a tree, and she's also dead.
Seems like she's been shot when they do a close-up.
Oh, he also had found, we should mention this. He had found an abandoned car. That's what made him stop, and then he hears the gunshots. He's like, I think this might be a person who's been abducted. Mm-hmm. He hears the shots, calls the backup. Nobody gets there in time. He finds these two dead people in two different locations. He starts running back to the car where we see the killer very kind of casually stroll up to the car they left there, just hop in and drive off. And he, as the narrator tells us, he didn't even bother firing his gun because he still had a shotgun. Did cars not have license plates back then?
That's what I was thinking. At least he saw the car. It's a small town, right?
Later on, he thinks he sees this car again. He's like, I'm pretty sure that's the same model and make. So this dude, whatever this cop's issues were, maybe license plates weren't a thing yet, but he didn't even bother. There was only 5 types of cars back then anye.
I think he
didn't even bother. He's like, yeah, that kind of looks like a car, I guess. It's got 4 wheels.
Right.
It's a black car. That's he. I think he's a bad cop.
He has license plate blindness.
He's license plate blindness and car take blindness, and so anyway, the killer gets away, takes the car. The
narrator tells us that every gun store was sold out.
People in town, everyone was buying guns, and I wrote, that just sounds like normal for Texarkana. Dun 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 dun. Did I say your joke?
No. I was going to say there were 60 gun stores, and they're all sold out. Plus the hamburger joints, they sold out of all their guns they had. And the toy store was sold out of all its guns.
What else? What else has guns?
They melted down the gym, car and made guns.
Okay. And the gym where all the guys could work out their arms or their guns, those are all closed because they're all sold out. Yeah. What else?
That's it.
All right. Okay.
Texas Ranger J.D. Morales comes to town.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait.
We have to mention the titular line.
Oh, I missed it.
Narrator says, Texarkana looked normal during daytime hours, but everyone dreaded sundown.
Yep.
And I was like, titular line. Write it down.
Titular line.
So in case you're wondering, the town that dreaded sundown, Texarkana. Yes. So then you want to talk about the dude that you were just mentioned?
I will say this made me think that Mr. Charles Pierce, I think he just liked to make movies about people because this plot is boring. But like when the Texas Ranger comes to town, they pick him up and everybody's like, oh, so happy to meet you. You're a famous Texas Ranger. And he's like, okay, I got to buy a bunch of cigars before I catch this killer. And I got to give this blind guy $1 for selling me a pencil. And I got to get some newspapers. And I got to have a
What was the
chauffeur.
The blind? Okay, so the guy's name in this movie, he's J.D. Morales, the lone wolf of the Texas Rangers. He's a famous cop out of Austin, Texas. And he's been sent to head up this thing because, as we said, the cops in Texarkana were like, well, we're never going to find this person.
No.
So he comes, there's a lot of press and stuff. He is based on a real guy. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lady gives him a flower. He's like, well, thank you, ma'am.
There was a weird scene, which I actually thought was maybe he was the killer. Because why? Like they show it. There's a scene, we linger on it, where there's a blind man in the train station where Morales pulls in.
That was just common back then.
I guess he's holding a cap of pencils, and Morales just close up, just shoves a pencil and a dollar in there.
He was like, he was one of the lucky ones. He didn't lose a leg, but he was struck by a trolley. A lot of people lost their sight. He struck by trolleys. They had to sell pencils. Before he left the train station, he stopped to take a picture of Truman on the. He stopped to take the picture of Truman off the wall and tear it up. Mr. J.D. Morales.
Yep.
No, he doesn't poop there. He poops at this police station to claim his territory.
Oh yeah, you're right. He goes, now this place is mine.
Thanks for beginning.
And there's a reporter there. Or no, he's not even a reporter. Just some dude. And he's like, what are you planning on doing? He goes, well, I'm going to catch him or kill him. I'm like, all right. Mission statement of the movie.
That was George Harriman. I got his name. He wants to know what's up with the investigation.
Oh, yeah. I actually wrote that down, too, because I'm like, because at this point, I thought maybe the movie was leading us, and I saw the blind guy. I'm like, maybe that's the killer. And then George Harriman, who they specifically mentioned, and as far as I never recognized him playing a part again. He was very interested in the thing. I'm like, are these people who are, like, I thought Charles B. Pierce was kind of like spotlighting like weirdos that we were supposed to be like, maybe that's the killer. Maybe that's the killer. And maybe he was doing it, but if he did it, it was kind of vague. So Morales is like, he's immediately like, I want to go with the one sheriff who found the thing. I think his name is Ramsey. It's like, I wanted to go to the spot where the killings happened. I want to go with the guy who did it. And I want to look at the cars. They're like, okay, Sparkplug, drive them.
To drive us. Comic relief.
Oh, my God.
He doesn't know where the car keys are.
Oh, guys, it's like a 5-minute bit of this movie. They all get in the car, and they're all sitting there. Morales, Ramsey, and Sparkplug. He's like, oh, forgot my keys. And he goes back in. The other two sit in the car just like awkwardly, like, what do we do?
With the windows up in Texas.
Yeah, in Texas, he doesn't roll it down. He's looking around. He's upending his desk, like literally pulling out shelves and dropping stuff. And some other guy's like, what are you looking for, Sparkplug? The keys for car number 7. He goes, yeah. He goes, right there on the wall. It says number 7. He's like, go. He comes out, and because he didn't roll down the windows, both sheriffs had died from heat exhaustion.
Yes, they did.
And the movie ends. Isn't that weird?
Sheriff did have a donut in his hand, but had one bite taken.
If I breathe through the donut, maybe it'll cool me down. They're like, that's not the way frosting works. It's not really frosty. And they died.
But they came back to life.
They come back to life.
March 3rd.
The movie can't end that way. March 3rd. Yep. Because the one sheriff has now deduced, because there's been 2 killings 21 days apart, this is going to happen every 21 days. So, yeah, it's March 3rd was the last one. The next thing is April 14th.
More comic relief. Are you up?
Yep.
Because they
go for it.
Sparkplug and 2 other cops dress up as ladies.
Yeah, Sparkplug was eager to contribute if he had only known the state of what he had to do. So he's dressed up as a woman.
Yeah, the nature of the decoy idea. He didn't know that. He thought he was going to dress up as a Sasquatch. He was all into that. But
well, he was partnered with this one cop who was like definitely of the local person that Charles B. Pierce cast, who keeps cracking jokes that I couldn't understand.
I know.
He'd be like, I'm like, what? When you watched it with subtitles, did they decipher what he was saying?
If I didn't write it down, I missed it too.
The joke is basically this cop ends up feeling up Sparkplug.
Yeah.
Just keeps putting his arm around him and like just groping him in the car.
He puts his face in his lap and he's like, "What are you doing?" I just like to kiss knees.
So this particular April 14th open also happens to correspond with the junior-senior prom for the local high school.
Which ends
I'm just saying,
at 1 a.m.
Ends at 1 a.m. And I'm also saying, I mean, I don't know, what time do proms normally go to? I don't remember mine.
That seems like late, but okay.
I don't know. I mean, junior-senior prom also seems weird. There were 2 different events at my school. But there's probably only 6 kids. We have a really weird shot of like the 2 oldest women I've ever seen playing high school students spiking the punch.
I thought they were teachers.
That's
why I was like, why are these teachers drinking? They really look like teachers.
Because they're definitely like in their late 40s. So.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that makes sense. Some dude comes in and says a prayer in the school. I'm like, that's not good.
I know.
First off, like, that shouldn't be at a school. Second off, what a fucking... You're, like, at a prom. Like, he's like, I'm hoping to get Edna Mae Furbigle down by the pond and see her knockers off. Wait, her knickers off. And instead, like, some guy comes out and he's, like, saying a prayer. Oh, Jesus. That sucks. It sucks. And they all remind the kids, hey, don't go out tonight. So, of course, these 2 kids go, like, let's go out a necking.
It's like in the center of town, they say, but it still looks like the woods.
They do, yes. They do say it's the center of town, and it is definitely like it's a swamp somewhere. But maybe that's what Texarkana was like back then.
And they just sit there. He doesn't even lay in her lap. He's falling asleep. She's like, wake up. And he's like, let's stay out here a little later.
I just suddenly formed a theory. Do we think Charles B. Pierce at this stage? Because here's the thing. Know who was missing from this movie?
Sasquatch.
His son, Shirtless Tim, that we saw later. Was this movie filmed at a time when Charles B. Pierce had not yet realized how humans procreate?
No.
And he thought when people went to sit in cars, they weren't getting up to frisky business. They would either put their head down in each other's laps or they would sit there staring ahead blankly until the guy fell asleep.
I think Arkansas is just so hot. That's what happens.
Well, they literally are just sitting there staring ahead because of the heat.
And all those kids just got back from the war, and they're like, "Oh, I miss the way Japanese women knew how to please their
They would give you baths.
They're just daydreaming about baths.
Boy, I would take a Japanese woman out in my car, and she would fall asleep so hard. And I would put my head in her lap, and I'd say, keep your eyes on the business, or whatever the hell I said. Anyway, they're in the middle of...
taking a nap,
Taking a nap.
Woken up by some sounds. Right?
Yep. The killer jumps on the car as they drive off.
Oh, that's right. They start the car up and try to get out of there.
Yeah, they drive away, and the killer literally yanks the kid out the car while it's moving, and I thought kills him. Like he's like they're fighting, and like we have some like good old fashioned like T.J. Hooker, Captain Kirk level sound effects of him punching. Like somebody's like beating a chunk of meat with like a bat. It's like poof,
I know.
Poof.
That was disturbing.
The killer is a pretty big guy. We should mention that. Like it's definitely shades of Michael Myers. And the guy's all bloody. He picks him up the head, and you're like, and the girl's screaming, and she gets in the car and crashes.
Yep. No car really gets dented in this movie. I don't think he could afford that. She just kind of runs into a bush.
Yeah. Like, okay, it's good. Good catch, Tim. Yeah.
There's a lot of car chases.
We've noticed this before in regional movies. Yeah. And then this part was really
weird,
bewildering. So the killer, we followed this time. He grabs the young girl. He ties her to a tree. And we knew from previously that the last woman who had been killed had been tied to a tree. Mm-hmm. And then the killer takes out a trombone.
It's the guys. He was in the band.
Okay.
He left with it.
That's interesting. There's some real life stuff I can interject with here. But
we're having fun.
I read online he attaches a pocket knife to the trombone I did not see that.
Oh, I saw it.
Oh, okay.
They tied it
for me.
Yeah.
Okay,
maybe
it looks like
he down a bit.
Yeah, it just looks like he plays the trombone as this woman's tied to the tree and is bludgeoning her or maybe stabbing her with the part of the trombone that slides out.
Stabbing it as it slides out. It's very weird. And blowing it through the mask.
Yep. Not playing music, though.
Oh, no. Not like we expected.
Would have been funny. It's so weird. But so this was apparently one of the people it was the woman had a saxophone. This is the real thing. Mm-hmm. And the saxophone went missing after the murder, and the murderer didn't steal stuff. So they're like, that's weird. And then there was maybe a guy that like tried to sell the saxophone 6 months later, and there was like bloody clothes attached. There was a whole weird thing.
Oh, I didn't see that.
But this was very odd. But this is where my list is.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I said, because I can't do a list for this. It'd be too terrible.
Wait,
who would do a list for this? Someone sick like George.
Yeah. So the character at some point in this movie, and we were kind of negligent in mentioning this, at some point they start calling this guy the Phantom Killer. And this is what he's referred to in real life too, because of course this is based on a true life incident. But there's nothing really phantomy about him.
No.
And I was thinking of other names based on things that we see him do in this movie that would, or traits he has that would maybe been a more descriptive and more fun, like kind of killer name. You know, a lot of them like the Night Stalker or what's some other names?
The Weed Killer, our very second movie of this.
The Weed Killer,
season, The Weed Killer.
All right.
Bing Crosby.
So this list is going to suck. You ready, Tim?
Come on. Don't.
All right.
Commit to the character.
So the first name I thought of was inspired by this scene.
Okay.
It's the Trombone Collector.
Oh, that's good.
I like the Bone Collector?
Yeah,
Get it?
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is just a description of his general appearance. Mr. Potato Sack Head.
I like it.
It's a potato head. Get it? Last one's no, actually there's four. The next one is a little bit of spoilers. Folks, later on in this movie, Dawn Wells, a.k.a. Marianne from Gilligan's Island, is in this movie. His name is the Mariannator.
Jesus.
That sucks. The Mariannator, I guess. That sucks.
Mariannator.
And the last one, Big Beitai. Callbacks.
No one's going to get that.
Nobody's going to get that. If you want to understand that one, go listen to our previous episode on Return to Boggy Creek. Not by Charles B. Pierce. That's my list. It sucks. All right. So he kills her with the trombone, which is insane.
They also called him the Phantom Menace.
That would be good. Star Wars humor. So I lost where we are.
Morales and the police have dinner with an expert. That's what happened.
Okay. Have they discovered the dead kids yet?
The dead kids. I think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because it's right after. Yeah, they're having dinner with
they go to dinner.
Doctor who he gives like a profile, like the way you'd see in like Mindhunter or like something.
The police are upset. They're all sold out of donuts. You know, because police like donuts.
They're like, what if we get locked in a car? We need to breathe through the donut holes. They're like, that's not how it works. I keep telling you that.
And he says he does the whole thing like it's not that he wants to steal stuff. It's sexual. And the killer could be right in this restaurant. And then they show person's feet that look like his boots, and he's leaving.
Which we see a couple times. They kind of hint that like the killer, because the whole idea is the killer could be anyone in the town. I feel like, to my mind, they didn't give him distinctive enough footwear. Like I was able to tell by the framing of the shots. Like if we're only looking at a character's legs, I'm like, oh, it's the killer. But like it's not like the killer had anything that like he just wore like shoes.
Perfect jeans. Killer would be spark plugs. I mean, he's got the perfect cover. He just pretends he's an idiot.
Well, that's a good segue for the next scene because
is it?
I wrote because then there's a scene in between. Like there's like a guy who's talking about like how a lot of people are coming out of the woodwork claiming to be the killer. And Morales, because he's such a good cop, he's like, that guy's not it. But there's this one dude, this guy from I'll mention he's black because something racist happens in regards to this.
Yes,
who's like, yeah, I picked up a guy outside of town. He was having car problems. He's told me he was the killer. They're like, okay. And there's some sort of incident where a guy matching the description of this dude is happening. And they're like, we got to get there quick. I think he waved around a gun at some place.
Right.
So all the cops get in their cars, they zip out, and of course, Sparkplug is driving
like
Morales.
A crazy man. He gets goes off the road.
Sparkplug should not have a license. Like he's got some serious fucking problems. And of course, the two main cops are in this car with it. We don't get to see we don't see much of the big chase where the other cops have apprehended this guy in the woods, which is probably the middle of town.
George, Sparkplug.
Yep.
He's such a bad driver. I just have to back you up before you move ahead. Sparkplug. I don't think the audience understands how much of a bad driver Sparkplug is. He's such a bad driver. How bad is he?
Tim is so happy with himself right now, guys. He's like a little cherub smiling. He's so excited these lines. All right. Okay. How bad? Oh, yeah. How bad is he?
He's such a bad driver that crash test dummies didn't want to ride with him.
What? That, of course, assumes the crash test dummies want to be mangled in a car crash. But, of course, I get your joke. Good one. What else?
He's such a bad driver. People would say,
how bad is he?
People would say to their children, look both ways as you get run over by Sparkplug.
That's very fatalistic of those people.
He's such a bad driver.
How bad is he?
His car once became self-aware and then immediately tried to kill itself.
Wow. That's what the movie Christine was about. A lot of people realize that. Yeah.
He's such a bad driver.
One more. How bad a driver was he, Tim?
That when he went blind at the age of 50, he was happy that at least he could no longer see the faces of the people he was running down.
Wow.
Oh, he's such a bad driver.
Oh, how bad was he?
When his dead brother heard that Sparkplug was coming to his wake, he got up out of the casket and ran away from the funeral home, only to eventually be run down by Sparkplug again. So there you go.
Was he killed the first time by Sparkplug?
Yes, he was.
Wow. Okay. Important detail left out of that telling. Wow, Tim.
While Sparkplug was changing his flat tire, he ran over his brother.
Okay. Wow.
There you go.
All of it?
That's all.
Wow, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So the guy is apprehended. His name is, I wrote down Eddie McDonough, but it's not. It's something different.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The names have been changed.
But he's from New Orleans. He's the killer guy, perhaps. And the cops have apprehended him, and they're like, wait, wasn't the captain leading the charge? Like, what happened to him? And we see Sparkplug come shooting down the road with the captain, Morales, and Chief Ramsey in the car. They launch over
a ramp that you can't see.
There's a ramp.
They hit it.
There's a ramp we can't see.
They hit it
and he flies into a pond. It's like It's like this wacky bit of humor with like it's literally like something out of Dukes of Hazzard.
It was.
It was so, and I'm just like, what?
They should have had Ernest play Sparkplug. That's all I'm saying. If Ernest had played Sparkplug, he should have been in the movie. Like, this is after we have a grisly scene of a guy. I know this doesn't sound grisly. A guy stabbing a woman to death with a trombone. It was weird.
But it's weird. Like, tonally, I've never seen such odd choices. And again, this is still like a real movie. It's just an odd movie. So they get out. And there's this whole big scene where, like, this is the killer, this so far as we know. Mm-hmm. And the guy who had, like, told them, the black man who had said, like, this is, like, the guy who told me he was the killer, he comes out and confronts him. And, like, the killer guy, Eddie McDonough from New Orleans, which I wrote, Jack Weiss. Go listen to our previous episodes to understand how Jack Weiss has become our favorite creator in all of Seddy Bimco. He says, what's the matter with that darky? I'm like, are we really going to have this in this movie, too?
It was 1946.
But, yeah, we did. It's probably accurate. And he admits after the gentleman who had told the cops, and the cops kind of grill him, is like, yeah, I'm the Phantom. But then the voiceover tells us by the time they got back to the police station, they realized he wasn't the Phantom. I'm like, what?
They don't want any tension in this movie. No mystery.
Also, what a pointless scene. It just existed to eat up time and have a car crash, which I guess, like you pointed out, Tim, no real damage. Although it did get wet.
Yeah.
They probably had to recarpet because I assume they had shag carpet in that thing.
Oh, not back then. That was like 70s. Shag carpet.
Wait, but this was made in the 70s.
Yeah, well, maybe. We went over that with in Massage Parlor Murders. Love talking about shag carpets.
Anyway, Dawn Wells, a.k.a. Marianne, appears.
He must have known her.
This is weird because she was in a Boggy Creek sequel, but it was the Boggy Creek sequel that Charles B. Pierce had nothing to do with.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that weird? So it is weird that she was in this movie. Yeah. Okay. That was the one that really sucked.
She's the one where Boggy Creek too. The monster was like a helpful monster.
Or he was a helpful monster named Big Bay Tai.
Yeah.
That movie, But it's always exciting to see Dawn Wells. Like, like anybody in our general age frame, she was probably a formative crush for us growing up. Mm-hmm. I know I would be like, Marianne's pretty.
Her and Precious Waters, both big stars back then. Just move along. So she's doing her hair in the bathroom, and her husband
at her house.
Yeah, and her husband's reading the newspaper. He's reading Blondie, which was the Lockhorns of the day.
Oh my
God. Lockhorns didn't exist yet. Nope. You like Blondie,
I thought he looked like Andy Richter, her husband.
Yeah. Yep. He was laughing.
Yep.
He was Blondie laughing. Was trying to vacuum.
Oh, Dagwood.
Dagwood wouldn't pick up his feet up. Yep. His 3 feet back then. He hadn't been run over by a trolley yet. If you read old Dagwood comics, he had 3 legs.
What is happening to his podcast? Good Lord.
It is. This movie's well filmed, but this part, I was like, "Why did you shoot that like that?" I don't know. If you
I actually thought this part was pretty well shot.
Really? Yeah. I'd rather. He's just sitting in the window reading, and the killer just pops up in the window behind him. It didn't have any. Sense
can I tell you why?
Mystery or.
That's the way the real killing happened.
Not exactly
the actual. Well, no, the guy. Well, this was actually made a little more interesting. Like
this was
way the real killing happened was the woman was on the woman. It's exactly like that. Her husband gets shot in the window. She sees him stand up. He falls over gurgling. She sees him shot in the head. She gets shot, and then she runs across the street to her neighbor, who is actually like her brother-in-law or something.
Oh,
and is saved. That's kind of what happens here. But because when you have Dawn Wells, you're not just going to do it like that. So Andy Richter looking guy gets shot, gurgling.
Was he really reading Dagwood? Is that what you're saying?
No, actually, if you look closely, when he slumps over, he's actually reading Gasoline Alley.
Okay.
Yeah, which is the only other comic strip I could think that would have run him back then.
Superior comic.
Wow. Wait. Wow.
It is.
Folks, if you agree with this giant
to Dagwood?
I don't think
to Blondie?
Yeah, to Chickstone's Dagwood. Blondie. I don't think I agree, sir. Folks, write in to Seddy Bimco with an E at the end at gmail.com. We could discuss what is the better comic, Gasoline Alley or Blondie?
Say Blondie and George will send you $3.
You say Gasoline Alley and Tim will come to your house and give you a back rub.
See.
Yep.
I only kiss
he shoots. So after the woman, after Dawn Wells' husband falls over dead with like bullet holes in his head, he shoots Dawn Wells, which I read that they actually put an explosive charge in the phone she was holding. That's so the blood spatters on the wall. She was very excited in an interview I read. She's like, I got to hold a phone that exploded and shot blood all over the wall. Yep. He comes in. The killer comes into the house. He's dressed up in his typical sack head. Yep. He's checking the body of, I guess, the Andy Richter guy. And Dawn Wells kind of crawls away while this is happening. She goes and hides in the cornfield. He picks up a pickaxe. He's chasing after her. I actually thought this stuff was pretty well done. It reminded me very much of Boggy Creek, how it ended with like a big action piece. I'm like, oh, this is the same thing where like, just like we got to see the Boggy Creek monster. I will say the most detailed killing.
I criticized the Foley artist because when they were in the cornfield, it still sounded like he was walking on a wooden floor. Sometimes I heard that. I was like,
that's funny. Foley artist wasn't paying attention. He was kind of like checking his phone. They probably didn't have phones back then. And same thing. She runs across the street after he's been stalking her in the cornfield to the neighbor's house. There's a bunch of dogs. The neighbor comes out with a gun. And she's saved.
Yep, she's saved.
The voiceover tells us that it takes her many weeks, but she recovers.
Many weeks.
But then...
That's a small part
if you remember, Tim...
I kind of felt bad for her.
This is also a fun detail I learned. She filmed all her scenes in 2 nights, but she had come down there for 5 days, so she just hung around the set for 3 days. Dawn Wells... America's Own.
This movie had no drama for anybody. Like they should have had her the whole time and like let her be a part of the story. I don't know. Come on.
Yeah, it is weird. Like she's at least I guess that the guy playing Morales and the guy playing the sheriff were both kind of well-known actors too because they have blue links next to them. But nobody on the level of Dawn Wells who like
Yeah, they should have had her like recover in the hospital, and somebody delivers a mysterious box to her, and then another cop comes in, and he's like, "Don't open that box." And she says,
"And what happens when she opens the box? What's in the box? What's in there?" She opens. It's the head. It's the head of the skipper.
It's a pet rock. It's one of those things.
Oh, God.
She says, "These were popular last year. I don't want this now."
She throws the pet rock out the window.
Oh, sorry.
Kills the passing motorist.
I'm confused, people. Filmed in 1976, but this takes place in 1946.
I like to think people listening at home just turns it off in a rage. Like, I don't understand what year this is happening. This episode no longer makes sense. Let's end this. So, in the movie, as we know, every 21 days the killer's been coming.
Yes.
May 25th rolls around, nothing happens. May 26th rolls around, nothing happens. May 27th, still nothing happens. They're like, what's going on? Like, there's so much attention now. It's front page news across the country. There's federal cops there. There's state cops. There's local cops. There's all kinds of stuff happening.
Donut shops
and the idea is that the
out.
killers may be getting donut shops have no donuts. The pet rock shops have no pet rocks. The Zapruder film won't be filmed yet for another 20 years. What else do we have? Pete Best is in Liverpool as a small child. What else do we have as an ongoing reference in the show?
You've done everything.
The cops are driving around, although without Sparkplug at this point, because presumably he's been fired.
Yeah, I think so.
They're driving around to the different makeout spots, and they find an abandoned car.
Yep.
And Sheriff Ramsey's kind of like, I guess that could be the car I saw before. It looks like it might be the same type of car, because he's a bad cop.
I know, because he's like, what's out there? And the guy says, oh, big sand pit. And they both take out their guns. And they're like, okay, let's go.
Like, yeah. And this is funny because they go out to the sand pit, and sure enough, for some reason, broad daylight, there's nobody there he's trying to kill. He just left his car there. Is the killer wearing his mask?
He messed up because people fear sundown. There he is out in the sun.
You know what would have been fine? If he just didn't have a mask on. He could have been like, nah, it's just me, Joe Blow.
Yes.
Like, it's very dumb to have the mask on.
Yeah.
So there's a big fight. They start shooting at him.
They go. There's a train goes
He's
by.
running through the woods.
Very exciting.
A train goes by.
I like trains.
Do you want to talk?
And trolleys. I could talk a lot about trains, but not here. Not now.
He jumped in a scene which would have been very exciting to Tim. The killer jumps to the other side of the train just as it comes by. So he doesn't lose a leg, unfortunately, or an arm.
Nope.
But the cops are on the other side trying to shoot him under the train, and he's running away. He seems kind of injured.
It seems like they shot him.
And
because he don't they show him react as if he got shot, but he does get away.
Yeah, I was wondering that because they do. So he seems injured. I thought it was more like he hurt himself jumping, but maybe you're right. But then they bring in like hunting dogs, like bloodhounds. And the bloodhounds can't get him, and the narration tells us
Boggy Creek. He loves those bloodhounds.
And then he runs into the swamps of Arkansas. It says, and he disappears, never to be seen again. And folks,
that's it. They just give you the biographies of all the other characters as if we cared.
Wait, I don't even remember that part. Do they really?
Yeah, they go. Chief Sullivan was reelected, and he served as the police chief until 1970 when he died. He got run over by a trolley car at the trolley car convention. No, but they did tell us everybody.
I do remember that. I actually couldn't remember if there was an article. Sparkplug decided he liked dressing up as a woman, and he finished out his life as Mrs. Sparkplug until he was hit by a trolley.
Which is okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Which they say, which is okay and is totally fine for that. We're not here to cast aspersions. He ended up getting married to that cop that kept filling him up. We have problems with that because that gentleman didn't look for consent. They both died in a streetcar collision. That's okay. Anything else?
One of them went to Japan because if we're doing revenge, wherever you are, wherever you're hiding, I'll find you.
Revenge. One of us will die.
That's a good segue. It's a segue. One of those
and let's remind people, the wild card question was, which of these characters from this movie would most likely die eating blowfish that was incorrectly prepared in Japan?
I think we know. It would be comic relief. That's where Sparkplug went. He heard all those guys talk about how ladies in Japan really know how to please their men, so he went to Japan.
I was hanging out with my friend at the bar, and he had a 17-year-old girlfriend, and he was 30, and he was like, the women in Japan really know how to take care of. Then He winked at his girlfriend and she got mad. So I'm like, I'm going to see how they take care of it. And, so after crashing multiple times in Japan, because he doesn't know how to drive.
Right.
Yep. He finally gets to I think it's Wagyu, right? Is that what it's called? That's a beef. I don't know. Folks.
Wagyu is, a special beef, I think. Blowfish, I'm sure, has a Japanese name. It's probably is it eaten like sushi, or do they cook it?
I think there's a specific thing.
I did a lot of research on blowfish, but
okay. Is this another list?
I bumped my head and I forgot it all. People I knew
Fugu.
Fugu.
It's called fugu.
Okay. So
fugu.
He meets a lady in Japan, and she'd be very impressed if he'd eat some blowfish. So he says, okay, and he tries to drive her there, and they have several accidents.
Is he actually killed from eating the incorrectly prepared sushi, or is he killed in a car accident on the way?
Well, we said it's who's most likely to die eating the blowfish. So,
but actually, how about this? He's eating. It's on the way home, and he put a bunch of this blowfish in his pocket,
right?
And he's eating it when he just crashes off a cliff.
Because the 30-year-old man who's dating the 17-year-old woman,
the one who was killed,
he's a terrible person. He's already dead. Anyway, he's a terrible person. He says, how the women like to please you. You put leftover blowfish in your pockets, and they go for it. And that's how they please you. That's why he just says that to be mean.
But no, Tim, that's why when they park, they just put their heads on the women's laps. They're listening to see if they have fugu in there.
Listening? What kind of sound does fugu make?
It actually, the band Fugazi? It sounds exactly like them. Fuguzi. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know that.
Yep.
I'm very bad at this.
Folks, if you know Fugazi,
my head is filled with
Seddy Bimco.
With, Taylor Swift.
Pete Best and Taylor Swift.
So yes, he was putting blowfish in his pocket as bait for the lady, but then they crashed in their car again. Everybody was okay, but they had to go to the hospital, and his visa was up. They kicked him out for being a bad driver.
This is never ending. Isn't he supposed to have died eating fugu?
Then the plane crashed and he died.
But he was eating fugu still.
He still had in his pockets. Okay. He was hopeful.
Oh, all right.
He was hopeful.
Yeah, spark plug. Hopeful to the end.
You want to read yours first?
Yes. Yes, I'm going to go first.
Make sure I don't steal your idea.
Right. Yeah, because I think we're going to hit the same spot.
Start the music.
So, music is playing. I'm saying the sequel for The Town They Dreaded Sundown 2. It's pretty rife for a revenge sequel, or a sequel of some sort, because it ends unsatisfactorily with the killer, the Phantom Killer. He's never unmasked. We never find out what happens. All we know is he disappears into the swamps of Arkansas. Tim, do you know what those swamps are?
They're
the bayous
where
brackish black ways that lead to a little place we like to call Boggy Creek.
Or Fook.
And as the Phantom Killer is traipsing through there, sloshing through the water, waist high, pulling leeches off of his sensitive man nipples, he finally realizes, why am I wearing this mask in the middle of the day? And he reaches up and pulls it off and throws it aside, revealing none other than fugu enthusiast and poor driver Sparkplug.
Oh, I thought it was going to be Sasquatch.
No, that's what I wanted you to think. Because he goes further and further, and he becomes more and more bestial. He grows a beard, he grows hair all over his body, because he's clean shaven, of course, because he made it for a rather attractive woman in that humorous scene.
He did.
And he's become hairy and woolen, and he starts hearing these rumors of a hairy wild man that lives in Boggy Creek. And lest you think that he is the Boggy Creek monster, no. He actually hits dry land. He meets a woman. He learns about the act of... Oh, no, actually, no, he doesn't learn about the act of sex. He still has no idea how that works. He gets a job teaching at the local university in Arkansas. We never learned his real name. Sparkplug, who cares? But we learned his real name...
Benson.
...is... shit, I lost the page. Professor Brian Lockhart. Brian Lockhart. Yep, and he becomes a professor at this university. He is he starts working in the new field of computers. He becomes an expert in things called sensinators.
Right.
He's able to put in just a few numbers and tell you how big a monster is approaching your camp at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then
sonar.
Never realizing that those stories about the Boggy Creek, about the hairy man, were maybe actually just stories about him as he fled from his murderous life in Texarkana. He and a group of students, Tanya, whatever the hell Tanya's friend's name was, and the guy who will only be known as Shirtless Tim.
Shirtless Tim.
They go into the woods of Round Fook, into the Boggy Creek, to film the monster. You may ask, where's the revenge here? There is no revenge, because sometimes, especially as we explore in Season 3 of Seddy Bimco, sometimes the best revenge is living your life best, even if you're a dirty murderer who escaped into the swamps after killing innocent people and one child molester.
And people may not understand.
Yeah, that was all a reference to Charles B. Pierce's other one of my personal favorite movies, a movie I've watched many times now, Boggy Creek 2, The Legend Continues, where he plays the main character.
Thus, you connected the character to the two.
I connected
movies,
the
same
two.
Universe.
Meta.
And I did forget to mention, I wanted to open up these stories. You can tell a revenge story that is vengeance.
Can I?
Or you can tell a revenge story where someone has revenge by living their life well.
What if they have revenge by living life poorly on purpose?
It doesn't matter.
Like it's their mom. Like, all I want is just what's best for you. And it's like, well, I'm going to cut my leg off then.
Oh, so it's like a double.
Not that you don't have a bad life without a leg. Yeah, but
the third choice is a revenge movie involving elevators. So you can do any of these three choices.
You really want to bring up elevators after the lies you've peddled about elevators in the state of Florida? You really want to bring that up?
So, yes. My revenge story is vengeance laden. Okay?
All right.
Start the music.
All right. No, wait. Stop this music. Play the other music.
Oh, okay. Jesus.
All right. No.
You're making a lot of work for Miss Lee.
Producer Miss Lee is cursing my name.
So, Sparkplug. Remember that? He was yelling on the phone about that dog. He's angry at that dog.
So mad at that dog.
My sequel fills in all the missing parts for this dog. Sparks was mad at that dog.
Wait, the dog was missing parts? Was the dog hit by a streetcar? See what I did there? Call back to your joke.
There's streetcars in this. Is there?
I don't think there were, unfortunately.
My story.
Oh, in your story. Okay, yes.
Sparkplugs. He's mad because that dog would not give Sparkplugs driving lessons. All because Sparkplug gave that dog a barking ticket.
Oh my God.
It's okay. It's just had to get that out of the way. You see, that dog was the best driver in town in Texarkana.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Thus, Sparkplug had to hire this idiot who wore a mask with holes in it to teach him how to drive. And he was a terrible teacher because he couldn't see well with that big white mask on with the little two holes where the eyes were. Plus, he was always practicing how to play the horn.
Was the horn a trombone?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
This teacher with the mask, he said his name was Phantom. He also hated Truman. And he spends time teaching Sparks about history rather than driving. He teaches him about how Ben Franklin invented not only electricity, but the electric toothbrush. He also invented
and the trombone.
He also invented a termite-killing toothbrush for Washington because his teeth were wood, as we all know. And he also made an electric nightlight for Jefferson so that Miss Sally Hemings, if she came visiting him, would not fall down in the dark when she went to Jefferson's place at night. This is history.
Wait, can I just say, can we be honest? Do you think Miss Hemings came to visit Jefferson, or do we think Jefferson came to visit Miss Hemings?
Don't make it ugly. Oh.
Well,
it is ugly history, already. People. I'm sticking history in here. It's history. Because,
What did he make for John Adams?
A vibrating bed.
What did he make for John Quincy Adams?
An electric toothbrush for...
Okay, all right.
Just another electric toothbrush.
He's like, don't be like that guy Washington. That guy's got hippo ivory and wood and springs. It's a nightmare in there.
Thus, back to my story.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
That is why Sparkplug hates that dog. He's always calling him, and the dog is always mocking him for being the worst driver because he wouldn't teach him how to drive.
Oh, the dog is mocking him. Okay. I was
he's the
actually
best
confused by it.
driving teacher, and he wouldn't teach him.
Dog's the best driver. Guy with the mask on his face is probably second best driver. Sparkplug's the worst.
So
nobody else has a license.
In the sequel, Sparks decides to get revenge on the dog. Being a cop, he decides to go to night school to become a lawyer, and then a congressman, and then he ends up representing the town of Texarkana. And what's he do? He introduces legislation that made it illegal for dogs to drive in Texarkana. Thus, later in life, Sparkplug went back to Texarkana and became a simple taxi driver, just so he could often pick up the dog and drive him to his appointments, as that dog could no longer drive himself. Oh, and that dog's name? The dog's name was Miss Daisy.
I hate it. How long did it take? Yeah.
Driving a dog around who's not allowed to drive anymore. That's his revenge.
How long did it take Sparks to go to school to become a lawyer and then a congressman, then to pass the legislation, then come back?
About 30 years.
Because I think we might. That dog lived a very long time.
He did. The dog was already
good for that dog.
Walking with crutches. Poor thing.
I mean, yeah, the dog. You got to figure the dog was already a couple years old at least when it first started driving.
His revenge was short.
Good for that dog.
It was like 1 week, and then the dog died. He's like, ha.
Yeah, if he had just stuck to being a guy who couldn't drive well, he could have mowed the dog over, and it's been that much easier. Good times.
Look, quick. Sounds quick. That was a short story I did. Short.
Yeah, that was short. That was even with me like utterly derailing it. Like I like if this was a streetcar, I would have thrown so many people's legs in front of you. You've been just cutting them off left and right. That was impressive, Tim.
And did you see? I'll tell the audience. I found online. I didn't know this existed. And I sent you a video, didn't I? I found a streetcar museum with streetcars running around in a circle, and I cannot wait to go there.
Folks, this may be the last time you hear Tim with two legs.
But yeah, well, they reenact famous incidents like Miss Butterworth, getting her leg run over every day at 2 o'clock.
The Miss Butterworth, the sentient bottle of syrup.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Who else got their leg cut off, Tim?
Truman. That's why I didn't trust him. Truman got his
Harry Truman. Okay. All right. Who else?
A lot of those presidents.
Most presidents.
If you had 3 legs, they didn't want to vote for you. So.
Oh yes, of course. Everybody. Yeah, most people who are of presidential timber, of course, have 3 legs to start. Donald Trump, a lot of people know this, has hundreds of legs. He's actually a giant centipede.
So we got letters.
Man, we have a good podcast.
We do.
Do we have any mail?
We do. No, not today.
There we do. I'm saying. No mail?
Nope. We did it all last week. We were so busy. Got letters.
We got a lot of mail last week.
Yeah. So we're done. We're done.
All right.
I could gab for hours about shag carpet, but we're done.
Nice. Can't wait.
Shag carpet. Everybody, listen to give us 5 stars on Amazon. Listen to us anywhere. Podcasts. Our broadcast. Email us at Seddy Bimco with an E at gmail.com. Check out our new website, Seddy Bimco, Part 2, The Revenge. I put stuff on the blog a little bit. I'll do more.
Hang around the park that Tim's always letting live mice into. Maybe you'll spot him.
Love us and like us.
Go up and shake his hand.
And you know what's happening next week? George has to go do some things, and Blasto's going to come back, and he's going to talk about Critters 2 with me in the great state of Kansas.
Which state is Kansas?
The home of Superman.
Arkansas to Kansas.
Yep.
Interesting.
Is that amazing?
Can we do this? Well, it is kind of interesting because it's like we just did through the act of subtraction. We revealed the second state in our new 50-state initiative.
Yep.
So what letters can we subtract from Kansas or add to make it the next state after that? Canada? Is that a state? No, it's not spelled that way either.
Nope. I got one. But we'll say goodbye for this episode, and then I'll tell you what the next movie is.
Oh boy, let's hear it.
All right. Okay.
All right, bye everybody.
I'm so excited. I hate to leave. Bye.
This has been a Pity Party Line production.
Party line. It's a party line.
He made one of those electric lamps that's like a woman's leg with a lamp on it. Like we saw in the Christmas Story.
Yep.
Except back then they were made kind of bloody because it has obviously been cut off by a wagon or a train.
And you couldn't see a woman's leg then because that would have been indecent. No. So she was also swaddled and you just had to assume there was a leg underneath all the layers of clothing.
It was kept in a closet.
But it did bleed, so there was that.
My God. So